After the storm's emptiness following my separation felt different than I'd expected. Where I thought I'd find relief, there was only hollow quiet. The apartment that had once buzzed with constant tension now sat in perfect, suffocating silence. I was learning to navigate this new solitude when Marcus called. Marcus was my ex-husband's son from his previous relationship, 24, reserved, always polite during our brief encounters over the years. When he asked if he could stay with me temporarily, explaining that living with his father had become impossible, I didn't hesitate. Perhaps we could both find some peace in shared company. The first week passed unremarkably. Marcus kept to himself, helped with household tasks, and maintained the respectful distance that had always existed between us. I found comfort in simply having another presence in the space, someone to cook for, someone whose quiet movements reminded me that I wasn't completely alone. But gradually, something shifted in the atmosphere between us. It began with lingering conversations in the kitchen. After dinner, Marcus would lean against the counter while I cleaned, asking about my day, sharing stories from his work. His laugh seemed deeper than I remembered, his attention more focused. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me with an intensity that made my pulse quicken before he'd quickly look away. One evening, I wore an old burgundy sweater that slipped off one shoulder. Across the dinner table, Marcus's gaze held mine longer than usual. Neither of us spoke, but something unspoken passed between us, a recognition that the careful boundaries we'd maintained were beginning to blur. Later that night, he opened up about his childhood, about his mother's abandonment, and how my presence in his life, even peripherally, had represented stability. I shared my own story of a marriage that had died slowly, not through dramatic fights but through gradual disconnection. As we talked, I noticed how he listened, truly listened, in a way I hadn't experienced in years. The next afternoon, I returned home to find Marcus repairing a leaky faucet. His shirt was damp, clinging to his frame, and when he smiled and said, "This place is starting to feel like home," something stirred deep within me that I tried desperately to ignore. That night, I dreamed of him for the first time. Vivid, intimate dreams that left me breathless and ashamed when I woke. I told myself it was just loneliness, grief, vulnerability, but every accidental touch, every shared glance made my body remember what my mind was trying to forget. We began sitting closer during our evening movies. Sometimes Marcus would doze, with his head against my shoulder, and I'd remain perfectly still, afraid to wake him, afraid of how right it felt. I started noticing everything about him: the way he smelled of pine soap and clean laundry, how his voice softened when he spoke to me, the way his eyes crinkled when he found something genuinely funny. The tension between us grew thick and electric. I found myself taking more care with my appearance, choosing softer fabrics, lighter perfumes. I caught him noticing these small changes, and instead of feeling uncomfortable, I felt seen in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Everything changed on a quiet Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, when Marcus appeared in the doorway, fresh from his shower. His hair was still damp, and he wore a simple gray t-shirt and dark jeans. He stood there, arms crossed, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken possibilities. "You've been quiet tonight," I finally said, my voice sounding strange in the stillness. "I've been thinking," he replied, his voice low. "About what?" He took a step closer. "About you. About this," he gestured between us. "About how nothing I'm feeling makes sense, but it doesn't feel wrong either." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Marcus, we can't." "Can't what?" He moved closer still. "Can't acknowledge what's happening between us? Can't admit that you feel it too?" I backed away, not from rejection but from the overwhelming intensity of the moment. He followed me into the living room, where we sat on opposite ends of the couch, the space between us crackling with tension. "Do you understand what you're saying?" I whispered. "I understand that we're both adults who found something unexpected together," he said. I understand that I care about you in a way that has nothing to do with who we used to be to each other. His hand found mine across the cushions, warm and steady. I know you feel it too. You're just afraid to admit it. He was right. For weeks, I've been fighting against something that felt both dangerous and necessary, a connection that defied every rational boundary I'd tried to maintain. When he leaned forward, giving me every opportunity to pull away, I didn't. His lips met mine softly, questioningly, and when I responded instead of retreating, something inside me cracked open, something that had been locked away for far too long. We moved to my bedroom slowly, deliberately. Every touch was reverent, every moment stretched with careful attention. He traced the lines of my face like he was memorizing them, whispered my name like it was something sacred. I felt beautiful under his gaze, desired in a way that made me forget every doubt I'd carried about myself. In the dim light, we discovered each other with gentle urgency. His hands mapped my skin with such tenderness that tears slipped down my cheeks, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of being truly seen, truly wanted. Afterward, we lay entwined in silence, his fingers drawing lazy patterns on my arm. The weight of what we'd shared settled around us, beautiful and complicated. Are you okay? He asked softly, noticing my quiet tears. I'm more than okay, I whispered. I didn't know I needed this. Needed you, but with morning came reality. Light filtered through my curtains, illuminating the complexity of our situation. I slipped from bed quietly, wrapping myself in my robe, and stood in the kitchen staring at nothing while my coffee grew cold. When Marcus found me there, he didn't speak immediately. Finally, barely audible, he asked, "Do you regret it?" I turned to face him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. No, I don't regret last night, but I don't know what to do with it now. The following days were carefully choreographed normalcy. We ate meals together, shared space, maintained polite conversation, but every glance lasted too long. Every accidental touch sent electricity through my system. The memory of that night lived in every pause, every careful step around each other. One evening, he came home late with windswept hair and flushed cheeks. He sat across from me, hands clasped tightly. "Have you told anyone?" he asked. I shook my head. Who could I tell? "I hate this pretending," he said. "Not what happened between us, but this careful distance we're maintaining now." I understood. The pretending was exhausting, but the alternative felt impossible to navigate. That night, I said, my voice breaking slightly, "You made me feel seen. After my divorce, I felt like I'd become invisible, like I was just going through the motions of existing. But you saw me." He reached across the space between us, his fingers brushing mine. "You were never invisible to me." Some nights, we'd sit on the balcony in comfortable silence, both of us avoiding the elephant in the room. Finally, one evening, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "What happens if we just pretend this never occurred?" I asked. "What happens to us then? We become strangers living in the same space," he said without hesitation. "I don't want to lose you," I admitted, "but I don't know how to keep you either." He leaned forward, his forehead touching mine. "Maybe we stop trying to define it. Maybe we just let it be whatever it is." Perhaps he was right. Maybe some connections don't fit into neat categories. Some intimacies can't be easily explained. Maybe what we'd found was simply two people who'd recognized something real in each other, despite the complicated circumstances. In the weeks that followed, we found a new rhythm, quieter, more honest. We didn't speak directly about that night again, but it lived in the gentleness between us, in the way we moved around each other with newfound understanding. Eventually, Marcus found his own apartment across town. We still see each other regularly, still talk and laugh and share our lives. What we have now is different from what we had before, but it's real and honest and free from shame. That night didn't break us, it reminded us both that we were still capable of deep connection, still deserving of tenderness. Sometimes the most profound healing comes from the most unexpected places, and sometimes the heart finds exactly what it needs in the last place we thought to look. 6 months later, coffee shop downtown had become our regular meeting place, neutral ground where we could be just two people catching up over lattes and shared pastries. Marcus looked good, healthier, somehow, with a lightness in his eyes that hadn't been there during those heavy weeks we'd shared under the same roof. "How's the new job?" I asked, stirring cream into my coffee. "Challenging but good. The team's great, and I finally feel like I'm doing something that matters." He smiled, that genuine expression I'd grown to treasure. "What about you? Still thinking about taking that photography class?" I nodded, surprised he remembered such a small detail I'd mentioned weeks ago. "I signed up yesterday, actually. First session is next week." "That's amazing. You should bring your camera next time we meet. Show me what you're working on." This was how we were now. Careful but caring, maintaining connection without crossing lines. We'd learned to navigate the space between what we'd been and what we couldn't be, finding something sustainable and real. 1 year later, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Guess who just got engaged?" I stared at the message, feeling a complex mix of emotions wash over me. Before I could overthink my response, I called him. "Congratulations," I said when he picked up, and I meant it. "Tell me everything." "Her name is Sarah. We met at a conference 3 months ago. She's smart, funny, challenges me in all the right ways." His voice carried a happiness I hadn't heard in years. "I wanted you to know before you heard it from anyone else. I'm genuinely happy for you, Marcus. You sound lighter." "I am, and that's partly because of you. You know, what we went through, it taught me I was capable of real connection again. It helped me recognize the real thing when I found it." After we hung up, I sat quietly for a long time. There was no jealousy, no regret, only a profound gratitude for the role we'd played in each other's healing. 2 years later, I walked into the small gallery opening, nervous but excited about my first photography exhibition. The past year had been transformative. I'd thrown myself into my art, traveled to capture landscapes that spoke to resilience and renewal, found my voice through the lens of my camera. "Julia," I turned to find Marcus standing near one of my photographs, a misty forest scene I'd captured during a solo trip to the mountains. Beside him stood a petite woman with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Marcus," I said, moving toward them. "I'm so glad you came. Wouldn't miss it. This is Sarah, my wife." "Sarah, this is Julia, the photographer whose work we've been admiring all evening." Sarah extended her hand warmly. "These photographs are incredible. Marcus told me you were talented, but seeing them in person, they're breathtaking." We talked for several minutes about art, about the stories behind some of the images, about the healing power of creative expression. Sarah was exactly as Marcus had described: intelligent, warm, genuinely interested in the world around her. As they prepared to leave, Marcus hung back for a moment. "You look happy," he said quietly. "I am, truly." I glanced toward Sarah, who was studying another photograph across the room. "She's wonderful, Marcus. You chose well." We both did. Chose to heal, chose to grow, chose to honor what we shared without letting it define us forever. He was right. What we'd experienced had been real and necessary and complicated, but it had also been a chapter, not the whole story. 5 years later, I received a birth announcement in the mail, a beautiful card announcing the arrival of Emma Rose, born to Marcus and Sarah. Inside, in Marcus's familiar handwriting, "Thank you for teaching me that sometimes healing comes in unexpected forms. Our friendship means the world to me." I placed the card on my mantelpiece next to a photograph from my latest exhibition, a sunrise over calm water, titled "New Beginnings." That evening, I called to congratulate them. We talked for a few minutes about sleepless nights and tiny fingers and the overwhelming love that comes with new parenthood. When we hung up, I realized how naturally we'd settled into this, a genuine friendship built on shared history but not trapped by it. Present day today, I'm sitting in my own home, a small house with large windows that let in streams of golden light, perfect for both photography and quiet mornings. The walls are lined with my work, images of storms and sunrises, of broken things made beautiful, of resilience captured in moments of perfect light. My phone shows a message from Marcus, now a tradition for both our birthdays. Hope your day is filled with beautiful light for capturing beautiful moments. I smile, typing back. Thank you. Give Emma a hug from Aunt Julia. Because that's what I am now, Aunt Julia, chosen family, someone who matters in their lives not because of our complicated past but because of the love we chose to nurture despite it. Sometimes people ask me about regrets, about paths not taken, about the story that brought me to this place of contentment. I tell them the truth, that healing rarely looks like we expect it to, that love takes many forms, and that sometimes the most profound gift we can give someone is allowing them to grow beyond what they were when they knew us best. Marcus and I found each other during our most broken moments, helped each other remember how to feel alive, and then had the wisdom to let what we'd built evolve into something sustainable and healthy. We loved each other enough to want better for each other than what we could have been together. That night, years ago, didn't just heal wounds, it taught us both that we were capable of deep connection, worthy of love, and strong enough to choose difficult paths when they led to better destinations. The golden light streaming through my windows catches the dust motes dancing in the air, and I reach for my camera. There's always another story to tell, another moment of beauty to capture, another way to honor the journey that brought me to this place of peace. Outside, the world continues its eternal dance of breaking and healing, of endings that become beginnings, of love that transforms even when it cannot last forever. Note: this story explores themes of human connection, healing, and the evolution of relationships. It examines how people can profoundly impact each other's lives while still making healthy choices about their futures, and how love sometimes means letting go while still holding space for gratitude and growth.